Hi everyone, today I want to talk about something that has been buzzing around the community for a while now, for the past couple of months, and that is re-examining the question of why Kaido was going to Marineford. Now this is something we only ever hear about, we don't actually see it. Back in Impel Down, Momonga receives word that Kaido is heading for Marineford but was intercepted by Shanks and his crew. I don't know if it was just Kaido, or if it was Kaido's entire crew. The way it's worded, it seems like it was just Kaido, but again, we don't know. This is the first time Kaido is ever really even sort of directly involved with the story going on in One Piece proper. Again, we don't see him, and he was involved in Moria's backstory, but this was the first time he ever really did anything. We still don't know much about him aside from the fact he was an emperor, and we knew he would eventually be important, but this was the first time he was ever really brought up, ever really something that could be a threat. So basically, I like to examine some of the reasons Kaido could have been heading to Marineford, and just kind of discuss them. A lot of this depends on how complex of a character you think Kaido will end up being. I think he may end up verging more on the complex side. I think personal bonds will end up being more important to Kaido than it may initially appear. So let's talk about a couple of these reasons. Now the first is he wanted to kill Whitebeard. He wanted to battle Whitebeard, and this was his last chance. This is kind of what we're told in that scene with Momonga and the Marines, and a lot of people take this as fact, but it's important to remember that is just what the Marines think is happening. At no point does Kaido or Shanks say that this is what is happening. Much like the Marines, the viewers are left to speculate. This is a speculation shared by both the Marines and readers/viewers. And this could have actually been the initial intention of just that scene when Oda was writing it. It's important to remember that he does change things. He does change his mind. He does take little details he put in the story a while ago and kind of rework them into something new. Gotta remember, One Piece was initially only supposed to last 5 years. So a lot of different things would have happened. For example, Doflamingo is introduced pretty early on, but his past with Law couldn't have been, because Law wasn't created until the arc Sabaody. He was kind of, Oda's editor wanted more characters to kind of spice things up. He suggested like 3. Oda being Oda created 9. And from that initial bit of editorial suggestion, we eventually get the story of Law and Corazon and Doflamingo. So this, the idea that Kaido was going to Marineford to fight, to kill Whitebeard, could have initially been the plan. We're just basically told what was happening. It couldn't have initially not supposed to have been anything more than that. But that could have always changed. So how likely is this to be the case? Still decently likely, but we know now that Kaido, he seems to have some sort of personal code. He still would have likely wanted to fight Whitebeard at one point. He probably did in the past. But he likes fights to, at least in some way, be fair. When he was doing battle with Odin, and that old lady turned into Momo to, like, distract Odin, Kaido got mad. This isn't something he liked. He didn't feel proud of the win, even though he took it. And he had the old lady executed. So I don't really see Kaido taking advantage of a weakened or distracted Whitebeard to kind of go in for that kill. And what was he going to do? Force everyone else to just freeze and wait while he and Whitebeard duked it out one last time? I mean, knowing Kaido, he might have tried. So I don't see this as likely as I used to. The second possibility is that Kaido simply wanted to be in an awesome battle. And he saw Marineford as a chance to do this. To be totally truthful, Octum's Razor tells us that this is probably most likely. We know Kaido is very bored with the world. He's very bored that he hasn't had a decent fight. He thinks the world is pretty weak. He wants to have a great war, basically to, have fun. And so if he wanted a fight, if he wanted anything entertaining, Marineford would have been the place to do it, because all the most powerful people in the world, aside from Big Mom and her people, were there. Whitebeard was there, the Marines, Sengoku, everyone who was anyone, aside from Big Mom, was there. This could have just been something fun for him. He could have been just sitting around drinking his sake. He could have heard there was going to be a big battle and thought, hey, I should drop in and have some fun. Again, this is, on a technical level, probably the most likely, knowing what we know about Kaido in the story proper. But how interesting is that in the long term? How interesting is that to inform on Kaido's character? How interesting is that for the story? Again, questions. Who knows? Now we're getting into the more sentimental reasons. Again, a lot of this depends on how complex of a character you think Kaido will be. Do you think he is the kind of guy who may remember his past fondly, people he used to know, people he used to be on the same crew with? Yes, so reason 3 could be that he was going there to back up Whitebeard. Maybe he had a fit of nostalgia from when they were on the same crew. Maybe he felt he owed Whitebeard for something, kind of like with Big Mom. Who knows? The Rocks pirates in general did not seem to have been on great terms with each other. They followed it because of Zebek. They seemed to, in some degree, when they were younger at least, follow Zebek because he was charismatic. They believed in him, not so much each other. But who knows? Like I said, Kaido may have been hit by a bout of nostalgia for the old days. Again, he doesn't think much of the world currently, but back from in the heyday, with Shiki and Roger and Whitebeard and Rocks when they were younger, maybe he wanted to relive that a little bit. And it's important to note that when he talks about Whitebeard, even though he and Big Mom were both like, Whitebeard's morality and fondness for his crew made him weak, Kaido does not speak disparagingly about Whitebeard, really. He even is kind of envious about the fact that Whitebeard got to die in this grand, glorious fashion. So, again, maybe he wanted to help. Oh, this kind of falls into a really cool fan comic that is out there of what if Kaido made it to Marineford. I really recommend checking that out. It is just glorious. The art is chef's kiss. Go look at it. Now, the final reason that has really gained traction, that has really gained popularity, is that Kaido was going to Marineford to help Ace, to save Ace from execution, if not help him, just remove him from the situation of his imminent death. Now, this has really gained traction ever since it was revealed Yamato and Ace knew one another. Again, we don't know much about that relationship other than it seems to have been positive. Yamato wanted to leave Wano with Ace, wanted to travel with him and his crew. Of course, Yamato would have probably traveled with anyone, but it still says something about the fact that Yamato was willing to go with Ace to leave Wano behind, especially since Yamato's dream is to open Wano. So there are a couple of different divisions of this kind of save Ace theory, and I'm going to go through them, and we're going to go through the levels of sentimentality, I've decided to call them, leading to kind of how positive, I guess we could say, Kaido was being about this situation, and how kind of just strictly practical. So we'll start with practicality and move to emotions. The first is that Yamato may have lied to Kaido to get him to go. It depends on how close Ace and Yamato were, but if they got close enough that Ace revealed to Yamato that he was Roger's son, then Yamato would be one of the few people in the world who had that information. And if, upon learning Ace was being executed, Yamato could have gone to Kaido and revealed this information as like a desperate ploy. Yamato could have said that Ace was Roger's son, which would be true, and then lied about maybe Ace knowing something about Laugh-Tale and the One Piece, which we know Kaido wants. And that would be might have been enough to motivate Kaido to go get Ace. Maybe not save him technically, but to get him and bring him to Wano to be a prisoner or guest, basically just to have him under Kaido's control so he could be interrogated about the information he would have, according to Yamato, knew. Now, this obviously isn't a great plan, but if it was made out of desperation on Yamato's part, it could work. Yamato's belief being that they could later on free Ace and get him off the island. If not that, Whitebeard and probably the Marines would be close behind. So not a great plan on Yamato's part if this is close to what happened, but made in desperation could have worked, because it would get Ace out of immediate danger from the Marines, and Kaido would not have been inclined to immediately kill him. On a slightly more sentimental side, so option 2, Yamato could have offered Kaido something in return for Kaido going to save Ace. Made some sort of deal with Kaido. If you go save Ace, then I will X. It could have involved Odin's logbook. Yamato may not have specified what this thing was, but Yamato could have said, go get Ace, save him, and I have something that you want. I will give it to you. I won't tell you what it is before, but if you get him and save him, I will give it to you. Or it could have been like Yamato themselves. Yamato could have been like, save Ace from execution, and I will officially join your crew. I won't fight you. I will get in line. I will be the child you want. This could be a very powerful moment if we see it in a flashback. Some would probably say it's sexist for, at the very least, a biological woman to basically give up their dreams for the sake of a man, but I don't really see it that way. I see it no different as Sanji leaving the crew and like giving up his dream, being ready to give up his dream of finding the All Blue to protect Zeph and the Straw Hats during Whole Cake Island. Some people would probably see it differently. I don't. Third option is, on the more sentimental side, is simply because Yamato asked Kaido to. Yamato went to Kaido as a child asking their father for something and asked Kaido to please save Ace. Now, a couple of people have dismissed this out of hand, saying Kaido doesn't love Yamato enough to do that. But here's the thing. Yes, this depends on Kaido and Yamato's relationship, but it's important to remember parents want their kids to love them as much as kids want to be loved by their parents. People don't have children with the intention of being a crappy parent. I'm not saying Kaido isn't a horrible father. I'm not saying he's not a monster. I'm not saying he's not a bad person. But he is a person, and he is a parent. Wanting Yamato to like him, to care about him, to admire him, to love him, is still in the realm of possibility, because, if nothing else, Oda makes characters who feel. They feel pain, they feel sadness, they feel remorse, they feel anger, they feel apathy, which is kind of an oxymoron, but they feel. And Kaido wanting Yamato to love him is something that could be a really rich bit of characterization. And so, if this is the case, that could simply be it. He could have gone to try and get Ace as a gesture to Yamato. Like a favor, something to earn their favor, or just in something to make Yamato happy. It's possible. Again, how complex of a character do you think Kaido will be? What is their fully fleshed out relationship? Because Kaido does show signs, at least metatextually, that he wants Yamato to be by his side. He is probably the one who taught Yamato how to use the weapon, the club, the kabuto, kanabo. Because Yamato uses the Thunder Bagua, which is his technique. He still wants Yamato to be involved with Beast Pirate activities, like he wants Yamato to be at the Fire Festival. He wants Yamato to take over Wano. Kaido, he speaks somewhat dismissively of Yamato. He calls him like my idiot kid or that brat. But he still wants him involved. He has not completely discarded Yamato. So again, the idea that he may have simply wanted to make Yamato happy in this one instance would be tragic, heartwarming, and sad all in one. Now finally there's this last bit, and this could be a really interesting twist. Kaido could have gone to try and save Ace simply because he liked him. Now, this would be a cool twist because it's simple, but it also would be unexpected. And it also depends, did Kaido meet Ace? Did he know him at one point? Did he try and force Ace to join his crew? But if they had met and spent time in the vicinity, Kaido may have been impressed or amused by Ace. We know he doesn't think much of the world right now and the current generation of pirates, but maybe if Ace tried to assassinate him, maybe it was this kind of impotence, this kind of grit, might have charmed Kaido in some way, kind of like it did Whitebeard. Kaido may have wanted Ace to join his crew, but because basically everything we know about Ace, from what other characters say in the anime or the manga, and in the Ace novels, Ace was almost universally well liked. Everyone who came in everyone who came in contact with Ace liked him and sung his praises. Kaido not being any different would again be an interesting bit of characterization, and it could be something that interesting that came up in the inevitable fight with Kaido and Luffy. So those are basically the categories I wanted to touch on: the reasons, the possible explanations, things that could affect the story going forward. It's also impossible to remember. It's also important to remember that these reasons do not exist in a vacuum. They do not have to be completely separated from each other. It could be a combination of factors. It's also too important to remember, for people who don't think Kaido would have gone there to help Ace, that it really wouldn't have cost Kaido anything. It could have been, even if he failed to save Ace, he would have still gotten to fight someone. And Kaido likes fighting. He is basically, after all, he's basically immortal. He can't be harmed. So if nothing else, he gets a bit of entertainment out of it. But if he succeeded in getting Ace, he could have gotten XYZ, depending on your reasoning. And if he saved Ace, Whitebeard would have owed him a favor. And having a favor due from Whitebeard would have been really valuable. But the important thing is, if Kaido was going to Marineford not as an antagonistic force, but as a allied one, so to speak, this leaves one important question. How and why did Shanks stop him? And that'll be basically part 3 of this kind of pseudo-trilogy I'm doing. The first being Kutaloon being a possible explanation for the Ace and Yamato connection. But next week I'm going to be covering kind of a spooky theory in honor of Halloween, involving Weevil, Blackbeard, and the graves of Ace and Whitebeard. Like, comment, subscribe, tell me what you think. Have a great day, everybody.